The moment I stepped back into our home after that conference in Dallas, I knew something had shifted, and not in a way I could explain with logic. It was subtle at first, like walking into a room where someone had just whispered your name, but vanished before you could turn. Lori no longer hummed when she made breakfast, and the plates she once laid out for the kids and me were now singular. A single bowl, a single coffee cup. Hare and I stood in the kitchen pretending not to notice, scrambling eggs while silence crept in around the corners of our once warm house. She didn't sit beside me anymore, not even as a formality. No questions about my flight or the keynote speaker. Just footsteps padding down the hall and the soft click of the front door as she disappeared for her evening walks. Only she didn't take the dog anymore. I watched from the window, curious, a dull chill settling under my skin. She would walk past the dog leash hanging on the wall like it didn't exist, slipping out into the dusky air with her phone clutched like a talisman. Her face lit up every time it buzzed. The dog began to whine at the door, confused, and I told myself not to jump to conclusions. But conclusions started building themselves anyway, stacked high in my mind, shaky and brittle. The necklace was the next thing I noticed. Thin, silver, with a teardrop charm I had never seen before. Lori wasn't the type to buy herself jewelry, birthdays, anniversaries. I was the one who shopped. I had never seen that piece in any catalog, nor any drawer until it was suddenly always there, resting against her skin like it belonged. That was the same week I stumbled on her new lingerie stuffed at the bottom of her drawer. Black lace, red trim, nothing I had ever unhooked or folded aside in the heat of any night. Still, I said nothing. Not when she started turning down simple things like zoo trips with the kids, or when I discovered she was out for over 10 hours on a day she claimed to be working from home. I kept quiet even when I found a dry cleaning receipt in the trash. 2 jackets, one women's, one men's, with a last name that wasn't ours but clearly shared between them. That was the crack in the wall. That's when the air got thick enough to choke me. Then came the morning I followed her. It was early, foggy, a chill that made my bones ache. She left before sunrise, believing I was still asleep. I slipped out the back door and ducked behind the neighbor's fence, watching her silhouette slip into a waiting car. A man in the driver's seat leaned across and kissed her temple. My heart didn't even race. It just stopped, froze solid in my chest. Back home, I didn't say a word. I poured a coffee I didn't drink and walked to the closet. That's where I found it. A box beneath an old sweater. 2 tickets to Seattle. A folded note inside, scribbled in handwriting I didn't recognize. See you soon. Love you. I lit a cigarette in the yard and smoked it down to the filter. The air didn't feel like mine anymore. The house didn't either. I came back inside, gathered every photo of her I could find, and dropped them into a cardboard box. No rage, no outburst. Just a quiet kind of unraveling. For the next few weeks, I started leaving work early to get home before she did, watching her lie about traffic like she'd rehearsed it. One day I checked the garage while pretending to fix the sensor light. Her bike, untouched, collecting dust. She hadn't used it in weeks, despite telling me that's how she was getting fresh air. In the storage room, I found a duffel bag buried under camping supplies, a cocktail dress, costume jewelry, and 3 empty condom boxes. Not a shred of hesitation, not even hidden well, almost like she wanted to be caught. That night I left the back door unlocked. I waited, lights out, heart like a stone. Around midnight, I heard the door creak. She stepped in, quiet and barefoot, glancing around like she was expecting something, or someone. I stayed hidden, watched her. She didn't go to the fridge, didn't turn on a light, just tiptoed to the laundry room and stashed something in the cabinet. The next morning I waited until she left, then searched the shelves. Her journal was tucked between cookbooks, short entries, hasty. Saw him again, talked longer than we planned. He made me laugh. Jake wouldn't understand. I don't know what to do about Jake. She'd turned my name into a problem, a variable, a weight. So I laid the evidence in the hallway. Her journal, the ticket stubs, the receipt. One photo, the necklace, the lingerie, everything. Arranged like a crime scene. And I didn't sleep inside that night. I moved to the shed with a blanket and a bottle of water. I let the crickets fill the silence where her voice used to be. In the morning, she walked past it all without a word, grabbed a single box of her things and left. 3 days later, I sat across from a family attorney and tried not to cry while asking about custody. That same week, I picked up the kids from their activity group and saw her standing outside the school. She stepped behind a tree. The man beside her reached for her hand. She let him take it. I didn't speak, just got in my car and drove to the old skate park, the one where the kids used to beg me to drop them off after school. I watched a boy fall off a rail and laugh with his friends. I sat there for a long time, wondering what the hell happened to my life. I didn't sleep much after that skate park night. The image of Lori's hand in his looped in my brain like a skipping tape, each replay scratching away what little patience I had left. But I didn't confront her. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of a scene. Instead, I started planning with a quiet, dangerous calm. Every move needed to be deliberate now, calculated. I had to rebuild without showing the cracks. She still had a key, and for a while I expected her to just show up one day, like nothing happened. But she didn't. Not until I wanted her to. So I waited. And while I waited, I changed. I got home earlier and earlier, enough to make the routine mine again. The house no longer smelled like her perfume. Her sweaters no longer hung by the door. The kids adjusted faster than I did, asking fewer questions than I'd feared. I told them only what I needed to, that things were changing, but they'd be safe, that I wasn't going anywhere, that we were going to be okay, even if I wasn't sure of it myself. I pretended to need something from the garage one afternoon, just to clear my head. The light flickered when I pulled the cord, buzzing above the old shelves and forgotten storage bins. That's when I saw it, her bike, still collecting dust, tires half flat, chain dry and rusted. I leaned over and brushed a finger across the handlebar. It left a line in the grime, like the ghost of who she used to be. Behind the tool chest, tucked beneath an old fleece blanket, I found a canvas bag. Inside it, a wrinkled sundress, broken costume jewelry, and 2 boxes of condoms, empty. Sloppy, really. She never expected me to look this deep, but I was digging now. Every thread I pulled unraveled something more. That night I left the front door unlocked on purpose. I didn't know what I wanted, maybe just proof, maybe to watch her lie again. Around 12:30 a.m., the latch clicked. I stayed hidden behind the dining room archway. Her steps were cautious, slow. She didn't call my name, didn't head for the kids' rooms, just crept to the laundry cabinet. I watched her tuck something inside, quick, nervous hands, and slip back out into the night. In the morning, after sending the kids off with their overnight bags to my brother's place, I opened that cabinet. A journal, her journal, tucked in between dusty cleaning supplies like it belonged next to bleach and dish rags. It wasn't detailed, just fragments. I saw him again. We kissed, then talked for an hour in his car. Jake wouldn't understand. I feel split in half. I wish I didn't feel this way. She hadn't written about me. Not really. Just about what I wasn't, what I failed to inspire. She didn't even bother lying to herself on paper. I left everything I found in the hallway. Photos, notes, receipts. Her necklace laid on top like a trophy she never earned. And then I spent the night in the shed. No confrontation, no conversation. Just a wall of silence between us. She came in that morning, looked at the spread, and took 1 box without a word. Her silence said more than 1,000 arguments could. That was the day I knew whatever had existed between us was gone. Days bled into each other. I filed separation paperwork. My lawyer, a no-nonsense woman named Reynolds, told me I had enough for an emergency custodial review. She walked me through the filing like she'd done it 1,000 times for broken men who had nothing left but their kids. I picked them up early from their after-school group that Friday. We didn't talk much, just went to the diner and split fries like old times. It felt almost normal. A week later, I hosted a barbecue in the backyard. Friends came not knowing what to expect. Lori's parents showed up too, sipping beer and catching up with neighbors like it was any other summer afternoon. I waited until the food was on the table. Then I walked inside, returned with a weathered cardboard box, and set it on the picnic table in front of everyone. I didn't speak. I didn't need to. Her father was the first to stand. He looked at Lori, then me, then the box. He didn't say a word, just walked off into the yard. My friend Chris followed, shaking my hand on the way out. More followed. Lori stayed frozen, staring into the box like it might answer a question she was too scared to ask. Later that night, I left a sheet of paper on her old pillow. Just 6 questions. When? Who? Why didn't you say anything? Do you regret it? Do you plan to take the kids? Is this the end? She never answered them. Morning came, and her chair at the kitchen table sat empty. The note was gone, but no answers took its place. I filed an emergency contact change with the school board. No more vague Lori D entries on pickup lists. I moved into my brother's 2-bedroom apartment the next week. Bunk beds for the kids, a futon for me. We made it work. I dropped off Lori's key through her mother, told her not to come by unless we arranged it first. She didn't fight it. She never fought for anything. Through a notary friend, I filed to terminate shared access to our property. Copies of the paperwork were delivered by courier. I didn't need her signature. I just needed the record. That week, I walked into the garage again, the old one, where we used to keep our wedding keepsakes. I pulled open a box of dusty decorations and found the wreath we'd hung above our heads at the altar. It was dry and yellowed now, fragile like a forgotten promise. I walked to the fire pit behind the house, struck a match, and dropped it into the kindling with the wreath. It caught quick, burned quiet. That fire wasn't for her, it was for me. For everything I didn't say, didn't scream, didn't let break me. And when the flames died, I stood there until the smoke stopped rising. I didn't expect to feel anything when I went back to the house for the last time. Just business. Grab what was mine, leave what wasn't, and close the door behind me. But emotion has a strange way of crawling up through the cracks, especially when the place you're locking up used to be your entire life. The photos were already gone. Her scent was fading, but the memories clung to the walls like smoke that had soaked in over years of laughter, of bedtime stories, of fights we once swore would only make us stronger. I wasn't there to reminisce. I had made arrangements. An appraiser would come by next week to evaluate the house, and I'd be forwarding all property decisions through my lawyer. Still, I walked slowly, like the floorboards were thinner now, creaking beneath every step as if they knew what was about to end. The kids were with my brother for the weekend. I used the silence to box up the rest of their belongings, labeling each with a marker Laura used to love for scrapbooking. I hated that I remembered something so pointless. But the mind doesn't filter grief, it just collects everything at once. I didn't want to leave without being seen, not by her, but by someone who mattered. So I invited our closest friends and family for a barbecue that Saturday afternoon. I needed people to witness this turning point, even if they didn't understand it yet. Everyone came. The grill was hot, the drinks flowed, and the kids ran barefoot through the grass like life hadn't just split in half. Lori's parents showed up too. Her mom brought that damn strawberry pie I used to beg for every holiday. Her dad looked older, his hair thinner, his eyes harder. I wondered if he knew. I wondered if she told them, or if they were still guessing like I had for so long. Once everyone had a plate in their hands, I walked back inside, grabbed a taped-up box from the hall closet, and brought it outside like I was just grabbing more napkins. I didn't say anything, just placed the box down on the table next to the ketchup and pulled off the lid. Inside were everything I had gathered in the past 3 months. Receipts, photos, her notes, his name printed on reservation cards, a necklace I never bought, a journal entry that read, "I feel seen with him, not invisible like I do at home." I didn't speak. I didn't explain. I just looked at her. Her father stood first, took one glance inside and turned away without a word. Lori didn't stop him. He walked straight out through the gate and down the street alone. 2 of my closest friends followed. One of them gripped my shoulder on his way out. That gesture, silent, steady, meant more than any words. Lori didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just stared at the box like it might start explaining itself if she looked long enough. That night, I left her 6 questions on her pillow. I didn't want apologies. I didn't want spin. I wanted truth in its rawest form. Simple questions. When? Who? Why didn't you tell me? Do you regret it? Do you plan to take the kids? Is this the end? In the morning, the pillow was empty. So was the table. She didn't answer a single one. Not with words, not with notes, just with absence. That same afternoon, I contacted the school district and officially removed her name as an emergency contact. No more permissions, no more soft compromises. I was done handing over access to people who'd already left. I moved into my brother's apartment by Sunday night. It wasn't much, but it was safe. The kids adjusted quickly. Bunk beds became castles, and takeout dinners turned into something we actually looked forward to. I told them we were starting fresh, and they clung to that word like it meant something magical. Maybe it did. The following week, Lori showed up unannounced, said she just wanted to drop off some clothes. I met her at the curb, told her next time to call ahead or go through her mother. She nodded. Her face didn't carry regret, just wariness. I handed her a manila envelope. Inside were the notarized restrictions, property access revoked, legal motion filed to freeze all joint accounts pending divorce. Copies were delivered to her employer's address. She'd have to sign for them there. A part of me expected her to say something, to yell, to argue, to beg, but she just blinked slowly and walked away. I don't know if that was shame or just numbness. One night after the kids fell asleep, I walked into the garage, the old one behind our original house. Inside a storage bin marked wedding, I found the wreath from our ceremony. Dry, yellowed, still smelling faintly of cedar and roses. I held it for a while. I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I walked to the fire pit, struck a match, and watched it turn to smoke and embers. Later that week, I filed for full custody. I drained the joint account, leaving a few $100s and opened a savings account in the kids' names. Everything else was locked down tight. I stopped answering her calls. If she wanted to talk, she could write, and only about the kids. 2 weeks later, we moved into my grandfather's old house, a countryside place with creaky floors and peeling paint. But the kids called it ours on the first night, so that was enough. We got to work, painted the walls, built bookshelves, put up pegs for their backpacks. I nailed a whiteboard to the kitchen wall with a label at the top. Our new start. Every night they wrote something new. Planted mint today. Built a shelf with Dad. Learned how to make soup. We lived slower, more real. Every moment small, but packed with something better than happiness. Peace. The first weekend in the new house, I took them to the lake. We camped under stars, roasted marshmallows, and told stories until they passed out, wrapped in flannel and dreams. I hadn't smiled like that in months. When we got back, I found Lori's letter. It had been sitting in my drawer for weeks, sealed, untouched. My hand hovered over it. For a second, I wanted to tear it open. Maybe she apologized. Maybe she begged. Maybe she explained everything I didn't understand. I took it outside, dropped it into the fire pit, watched it curl and blacken into nothing. Then I turned, opened the curtains wide for the first time in a month, called the kids into the living room, and told them we were going to make pancakes for dinner. We can breathe again, I said. And for the first time, we really did. It was cold the morning the final papers arrived. Not dramatic, not stormy, just gray and quiet, like the world knew something was ending and didn't feel the need to dress it up. I'd already been up for hours, sipping burnt coffee, watching the kids sleep on the couch after a movie night. They were curled together like nothing outside our little house could touch them, like I had somehow kept the storm out long enough for them to believe this new life was normal. I signed the last page of the custody petition with a hand steadier than I expected. It felt clinical, unemotional, until I saw their names printed under mine. Something in my chest tightened when I realized I had just claimed full legal responsibility for their future, their protection, their everything. I had always been their father. Now I was their shield too. The joint account was gone. I'd already split off every cent that mattered and dropped it into savings accounts under their names. Small pools that would grow with time, untouched by mistakes that weren't theirs. My lawyer called to confirm the filings and mentioned Lori had finally responded through her attorney. No fight, no demands, just acknowledgement. It was like she'd finally accepted that I wasn't going to chase her down or wait for apologies. I ignored the part of me that wanted her to react. Instead, I focused on the house. The kids and I spent weekends turning it into something alive again. We painted the hallway a soft blue and built new shelves from salvaged wood. We planted herbs along the windows and wrote new things on our new start board every night. Climbed a tree today. Lost a sock in the creek. Laughed really hard. It became a ritual. Small victories, daily anchors. The kind of things that stitched a fractured life into something steady. Every so often, I'd catch myself waiting for a message from Lori, and sometimes it came, a simple text or an email, asking how the kids were. I never replied directly. My lawyer had advised written-only communication, and even that, I filtered like poison through a screen. She never asked to visit, not once. Maybe she knew she'd burned through more than just trust. A month passed, then another. One afternoon, I drove past the school unexpectedly and saw her across the parking lot. She was standing beneath a tree, her hand clutched around the strap of her purse like it was the only thing keeping her steady. She wasn't alone. The man I had seen her with months earlier stood beside her, too casual in posture, too familiar. She didn't notice me, or maybe she did but chose not to look. I stayed in the car and waited until they walked off in opposite directions. She never looked back. By early spring, the countryside house didn't feel like a backup life anymore. It felt earned. I'd started freelancing remotely again, just enough to keep the lights on while I stayed close to the kids. A part-time educator came by in the afternoons to help with schoolwork, a gentle woman named Dana who understood loss like it was a second language. The kids adored her. I did too, in a way that surprised me. Quiet, cautious, nothing romantic. Just presence, a steady rhythm I hadn't felt in a long time. One night she stayed for dinner. It was innocent. Pasta, garlic bread, stories about her brother's farm. The kids laughed until they cried over her impression of a grumpy goat. I laughed too, even though I hadn't meant to. After they went to bed, she lingered on the porch, hesitating like she wanted to say something important. "She called me," Dana said softly, watching the horizon. "Lori." I didn't react, not at first. I just waited. "She said she wanted to know if you were okay." I nodded, jaw clenched, fists deep in my pockets. "And I told her, yeah," Dana continued, "but not because of her." She left not long after. No awkward goodbye, no expectation, just quiet understanding between two people rebuilding different kinds of broken. That night I opened the drawer next to my bed, the one with Lori's old letter, the one I had burned weeks ago. All that remained was the ash I hadn't cleaned out, resting at the bottom like a warning. I ran a finger across the inside. It came away black, smudged, smeared. Then I opened the folder that held the last legal documents: final custody approval, termination of shared property, divorce proceedings, signed by her, stamped by the court, and sealed in an envelope like it was just business. But it wasn't. It was 17 years of effort, torn at the seams by secrets she never had the courage to confess. All it would have taken was one moment of honesty, one crack in her mask. But she wore it too long, and now it was mine to unmake. I drove back to the old house one last time, not to revisit it, but to finish it. The garage still had a few boxes left, things I hadn't wanted to touch before. Our wedding album, a photo of her kissing the kids in a frame that used to sit beside our bed. I didn't take any of it. I walked it to the fire pit, dropped it all in, and watched the paper curl and blacken in silence. Then I reached into my pocket, a silver lighter, my father's. He used to say, "Only use this when something ends that should never have begun." I struck it, let the flame roll high, and fed it everything she left behind. The photos, the necklace, the scribbled notes, the second key to the house. And when the last ember blinked out, I stood there and whispered the truth I hadn't spoken until now. "You made your choice. Let her burn. Let her lies burn with her. Because I wasn't the one who killed the marriage. I was the one who buried it." That's all for now, folks. Thank you for being with me today and listened. And if you liked my story, please subscribe, hit the like button, and comment below what you think about all this, and what would you do if you were me. Also, don't forget to check my other stories in description below.